Hey tennis fans, welcome back to We're So Excited. We've hit the double digits. This is episode 10. We hope wherever you are in the world, you are safe, healthy, at home. Our hearts are with you, and it's time to have a little bit of tennis fun. I'm using my Today Show approved graphics. They've been using these, Blair Henley, on the Today Show. I'm Nick McCarvel, and this isn't the Today Show, you guys, but we want to welcome you to episode 10 of Tennis Tuesday.
So good to see you all, sort of, again today. I mean, episode 10, I'm kind of proud of us, Nick. Way to go.
We made it, Blair.
We have another fun show. We're excited about it. We have another special guest today in Bethanie Mattek-Sands. We're going to talk to her about Tennis United, the show none of us thought would ever happen. We have some really interesting topics to discuss in takeaway time. We are also going to get to some fantastic answers from our YourServe question this week. And we also have a new segment for you, so that'll be a surprise later on as well.
Yeah, very, very excited about that. We've got a contributor from around the world, the tennis world, and Blair, we're going to get to that. Of course, that's going to be at the end of the show, but it is time for our wellness check. And Blair Henley, how are you?
I'm doing okay, Nick. And since there's nothing new going on in my life, I actually come with a question for you. There was a much maligned story on LATimes.com this week, I'm sure in the newspaper as well, where the writer essentially said, dress for the job that you are getting paid, or in our case, perhaps not getting paid for. Forget the work from home sweatpants. You should have shoes on. You should be fully dressed, even if nobody is seeing your bottom half. And you always look great with the polos for Tennis Tuesday. Where do you land on the spectrum here?
This might surprise you a little bit. I fully endorse work from home sweatpants. I just kind of feel like you should do whatever you want to do. I will say I'm wearing actual pants and a belt today. I know that's the view that you wanted on Tennis Tuesday, but today I felt like, okay, we're going to record. I've got my collared shirt on, but what do you think on the work from home sweatpants?
Oh, I am wearing sweatpants and fuzzy socks right now in protest, but no, I'm a firm believer in sweatpants. I do like the idea of getting up and kind of having your same routine, not opposed to that. But listen, if nobody's seeing the bottom half, it's going to be business on the top and party on the bottom for me. But how are you?
Yeah, thanks. I'm really good. It's been sunny in Montana the last few days, which has been fantastic. And I don't know if you checked it out this past weekend, but ESPN premiered The Last Dance, which is the story of the 97-98 Chicago Bulls. My brother's here in Montana. He was a huge Chicago Bulls fan. So that has me feeling up a little bit and feeling connected to a lot of tennis fans out there, to you guys. The connection of sport. We've been kind of missing that lately, Blair.
Yeah, love the connection of sports. And we've had a few ATP players who have taken the connection to the next level over the past several days. We've had some, I'd say, high profile Instagram lives starting off. There have been many, by the way, but you had Andy Murray and Novak Djokovic together just a few days ago talking about a number of different things. I just love Andy's sense of humor, I have established that on Tennis Tuesday before, and it was no different for the hour that he talked to Novak. It was actually really interesting stuff as well. There were some more serious topics, but I loved when they were talking about the GOAT debate and whether or not that was a good debate to have. Novak did say, hey, I think it's good if tennis fans want to discuss that, go for it. But my favorite thing was when Novak said, well, first, in talking about the GOAT debate, I just don't believe you can compare generations. And Andy jumped in and was like, Novak, just to remind you, all three guys who are in this conversation are in the same generation. So again, great Andy Murray sense of humor there. I also thought it was interesting listening to them ask each other what they would do if they weren't tennis players. Andy Murray said probably footballer. Djokovic said, first he said something in sports, and then he kind of moved on to saying something that kind of surprised me. He said, I like science. I might want to be a scientist, which is interesting in light of something that came out yesterday. We're recording this on Monday. On Sunday, Djokovic was a part of a Facebook Live with several Serbian athletes, a lot of tennis players. And in that, he said, and I'm quoting here, "Personally, I'm opposed to vaccination, and I wouldn't want to be forced by someone to take a vaccine in order to be able to travel." And obviously, that is something that could end up playing out in the next several months as we see kind of what the best way is to get tennis, sports, the world back on its feet. So interesting to hear that from the world number one.
Yeah, certainly. And, it obviously created a lot of headlines, right, Blair? But I think the bigger issue will be when or if we get to a point where hopefully we'll have a vaccine at some point for COVID-19. And if players need it to travel, will Novak Djokovic decide to go ahead with that or not? That's something obviously that is very far down in the future. But that was interesting to come out of another live. And it felt like, I think last week we were talking about, in takeaway time, that the tennis challenges were the thing that hit the web. Now it's all of these Instagram lives, because you mentioned obviously that one. And then you also had Novak going live with Stan. And you had Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer going live together. Rafa eventually figuring out how to use Instagram Live, which may have been the most endearing moment, I think, so far of this time at home. I loved watching Rafa. You did it, Rafa. You made it there eventually.
I've never related so much to Rafa Nadal in my life. But I will say one of the more interesting things I thought in that particular conversation, he spoke to Andy Murray and Roger Federer. He had different guests on there, but he said he hasn't picked up a racket since Indian Wells. That was surprising to me. I know obviously it's difficult, some places, unless you have a court, you can't get on the court at all, or you shouldn't be getting on a court at all. But knowing Rafa as we do, it's hard for me not to believe that he is, just has the racket in his hand, just kind of twirling it around. He's so intense. That's hard for me to imagine.
It really is. I love that Roger, of course, had to follow that up with a dad joke saying that it was good for him, essentially, when they come back to tour. The other thing that Federer said in that Insta Live was that his knee was feeling really good, Blair. They're obviously at home in Switzerland. He was talking about being with the kids. He said, "These days I'm a taxi driver," another dad joke win for Fed. But he did say, for all of you Federer fans out there, that the knee is feeling pretty good. So that's big for him. And that one obviously garnered a lot of attention, but you followed the Novak with Stan live as well.
Yes. And in that, Novak talked a little bit about the player relief fund and the plan that Novak, along with Roger and Rafa, kind of laid out for the rest of the tour. It's a sliding scale of contribution for the top 100 players, and that's in addition to the million plus that the ATP has already contributed, and I believe they're expecting about $500,000 from the Grand Slams. Great, right? A lot of leadership from Djokovic.
I think it'll just be interesting, Blair, overall to understand how all of this is going to shake out. But it was huge of Djokovic. That news was kind of broken by John Wertheim at Tennis Channel. But it's very interesting. And he's encouraging the slams and the ITF and the tours to come together and work together on this.
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts on this. First, I kind of hate that it's the players having to do this out of their own pockets. If they want to do it, great. I don't love that it's sort of being mandated, but because this is the case, because this is what it's come to, I really do think there's a very good chance that this could be the catalyst that we need to maybe see a different allocation of prize money in the future. I think it was Robbie Koenig who tweeted that the Masters winner gets $2 million. And I don't think there are going to be many slam winners who are going to complain if they're making a couple million versus maybe 4 million. Maybe people would complain behind closed doors, but gosh, I just feel like it's a PR win for everyone involved. And you get to support players at the lower levels. I do think it's interesting. The ATP's relief money is going from players ranked 150 in the world to 400 in the world. Novak, Roger, and Rafa decided they wanted to focus on players 250 in the world to 700 in the world. And the reasoning there was they felt that, okay, if you're ranked above 250, you're probably regularly getting into Slam qualies. And I did a little research on that, and the breakdown for last year at the US Open for qualies. If you lost in the first round of US Open qualies, you got $11,000. Then it went up to around $18,000, and then around $32,000. And I got to say, at that level, you're probably not consistently making it into anything. And so say you lose 4 slams in the first round of qualies, that's what, $44,000. It's not like you're making great money if you're getting into Grand Slam qualies draws. So I wish in some ways, I do feel like those players who are maybe 150 to maybe 300 are going to probably be the most hurt by this, because those are the players that were kind of knocking on the door. I played ITF tournaments for several summers in college, and kind of got to know some of the players who were playing at that level, who are ranked from, say, 800 in the world to sometimes up to around 350, 400. And yes, there are really extremely talented players who are playing at those levels. There are also players who are being supported by their parents. There are players who are just playing for the experience, who played college tennis and don't want to give it up yet. So there are a variety of reasons why people are playing at that level. Sometimes, again, I don't want to generalize, but I knew a lot of Eastern European players who played because that's all they ever knew. That from the time that they were 3, it was professional tennis or bust, whether or not they were actually going to have a successful career. And sure, I would love to see them be able to make more money, but I also think that somebody who is kind of hanging around at the 700 level, are they going to be the next gen of the tour? I don't know. So again, there's no right answer here, but having kind of seen that level of tennis, I had thoughts, I had feelings. So thanks for letting me get them all out.
I love that. Thank you for that insight. And it's interesting because we throw around all these different numbers, and it's tough. It's, there was a lot of controversy around the creation of the separate ITF rankings, the ITF World Tennis Tour. There's a siren going on just beyond me. I'm not in New York City, but surprise. When I was at USA Today, we did a story on Grace Min in 2015. I think she made the first round of the main draw at each of the slams, and that was funding her year. And she was ranked 120, 140-ish. And she was in interviews, she was talking about how she was barely making it off of that. So again, it's such an interesting time, and you and I have talked about all of the people that we know off the court that are affected by tennis, and this is just the tennis world. So it's a very interesting discussion. I love your insight there. And Blair, if we kind of move a little bit away from the pro tennis tour and talk a little bit about local tennis, about tennis here in the US, and the USTA has announced their own plan to help. They're allocating $50 million in spending to support what they call the sports ecosystem. So multi-year, multi-phase plan, essentially trying to help community programs, teaching pros, touring pros, and essentially they've taken money from projects, people, places that they felt like they had a surplus. They've stopped some capital campaigns. I know some of the upper echelon USTA folks have taken pay cuts, and that money is going into the community because essentially they're trying to say local teaching pros, community programs, the club that you might belong to in Houston or in Dallas that I might go to in Montana or New York City or wherever, they're trying to keep tennis itself afloat.
Yeah, and I do hope, by the way, that some of these relief funds, whether it's from the ATP, WTA, USTA, are going to the coaches as well. That is a group of people that I have thought a whole lot about since this whole thing began. That's got to be a rough place to be. The coaches who were tied to professional athletes who are now no longer making any money. But again, speaking of the USTA, thanks for giving us that background. There's been talk about the possibilities for the US Open. Unlikely that it's going to happen without fans, but in the case that it does, there were some players that had thoughts about that.
Yeah, totally. And Simona Halep and Petra Kvitova both spoke out and said that they don't want to play at these big events without the fans. Simona Halep saying that she feels like the fans are really the ones that are the backbone. This is a quote from Simona saying, "Tennis minus the fans doesn't work." And so that argument is interesting because a lot of people are saying, well, if we can get people on site, get the TV cameras rolling, and try and put together a TV package for millions of fans worldwide, well, then you're giving the product. I think the interesting thing there for me, Blair, is that I'm all for it. If we can have live tennis somewhere, great, let's do it. Let's be safe. Let's follow regulations. But Wimbledon was saying that even without the fans, they would need some 5,000 people on the grounds to run the tournament. I'm going to guess the US Open is right about there. You imagine all of the people that come with the players, their teams, food, medical, TV broadcast. That's are all the players going to be in separate locker rooms? I mean, there's not the facilities for that. So to say that we're going to start with no fans, I understand the approach there. I'm just wondering how realistic it is, because without fans doesn't mean no one. It actually means a lot of people on the grounds. Curious to know what you think too.
I feel like this is the economics major in me coming out. I feel like if there's any way for tennis to be played, even if, like, for instance, my job at the US Open is sort of obsolete without fans. I start off my day saying, hey, tennis fans, welcome to Grandstand. We have a great day of tennis coming up for you. Not going to need that. Hopefully they would still need post-match interviews. But there are a lot of people who work in the sports industry who could be earning money if that were to happen, even if it's just as a TV package. Do I think that it's likely? No, but if there's one thing that I found over the past couple of months, it's that the landscape has changed, daily. And so as much as I feel like it's easy to say no way, given that New York is really the hotspot in the United States for COVID-19, it's easy right now to say no way. But on the flip side, I just want to give it as much time as possible, because who knows what brilliant people out there, much smarter than me, could maybe come up with as a solution, because the economic aspect of this for sports is significant. Obviously, health comes first by a mile, but if you can safely do both, I'm all in.
Well, and something that I think we should address later in this episode too is just the news today that the UK is looking to put together some sort of domestic event, following all the rules, trying to figure out how to get their best players. Andy Murray, Dan Evans, Cam Norrie, maybe Jamie Murray would be a doubles player to be involved there. It'll be interesting to see. There's an announcement last week from Patrick Mouratoglou's academy that they're trying to do something akin to that with the players that are already in that area. We're going to watch this space, Blair. It is time now to go from takeaway time. We're so excited this week, you guys. She's an Olympic gold medalist, a Grand Slam champ. She's been a top doubles player in the world. And she's also a social media star. She's one of the hosts of the new tennis show, Tennis United. We're really excited to be joined by Bethanie Mattek-Sands.
Welcome to episode 2 of Tennis United. I am your host, Bethanie Mattek-Sands, and alongside of me, of course, socially at a distance, is Vasek Pospisil. Vasek, how's everything up in Whistler?
It's good. Well, I'm actually back in Vancouver, but
you're changing spots on me now.
Well, we're glad you could join the show, guys. This is Tennis United. In episode 2, we'll continue with a lot of the same themes as the first episode. We've got challenges, social media content, and special guests as always.
Basically, we are getting an inside look at all the players on both tours. And
Bethanie Mattek-Sands, welcome to Tennis Tuesday. Who would have thought that the last time I saw you, you'd be clinching the Fed Cup playoff tie for the U.S. against Latvia? So much, or I guess so little, has happened since then. How have you dealt with the past couple of months?
Wow. We were also practicing making paper airplanes with Ali Risk too. So that was actually a great Fed Cup. I just did an Insta live with Coco Gauff the other day, and we reminisced a little bit about that. It was a really cool moment. Honestly, I didn't even think it was going to come down to the finals since we were leading it. But what an amazing end to that. But I'm missing all my tour mates. I mean, as everyone knows, the tennis tour is canceled right for now. It's postponed at least through August, maybe even later than that. We're still kind of all in the same we're all in the same place, kind of waiting to see what we're doing. But in the interim, I've been pretty busy. I've been at home in Phoenix, Arizona. Obviously, I was in Indian Wells before that, and just drove home right after they canceled BNP Paribas, and have been kind of taking this time to reprioritize my life a little bit, not just kind of career-wise, since that's on hold. I'm actually still training. I have a garage gym set up, so I'm still staying in shape. But really, it's only to balance out how much I'm eating and how much wine I'm drinking. So that's my motivation right now. And I think as a tennis player, it's tough because we're so used to having these end goals. Like even when I was injured and I was out for months, I did know the timeline. Like I knew, hey, I'm going to be running in a few weeks, or I'm going to be playing points in a few weeks, and then I'm going to eventually get to my match play. And right now, all tennis players are kind of like, this is the most amount of time we've all ever had off, I think, unless some of us have either had some babies or had some really bad injuries. So, but it's, we're all kind of in the same boat right now. So I think we're all just keeping ourselves busy in a lot of different ways.
So, Beth, I don't think anyone has been quite as busy or busy like you the way that you have. We've been seeing the same backdrop at your house. Blair is very, very jealous of your tournament towel collection. Tell us a little bit about Tennis United. Has been awesome. You guys are 2 episodes in, you and Vasek bringing the tennis world together. That's been awesome. And maybe for us tennis hosts and for those watching at home, what are your live broadcasting tips from home?
Live broadcasting tip: have good lighting. I feel like that's key. So if you can get either the windows behind you, like, is kind of a no-no. So just like work on the lighting, and I think you'll be good to go. But I think everyone's pretty relaxed right now. I mean, we're all doing, like, whether you're ESPN or whether you're just a vlogger or blogger, we're all kind of doing media from the same place, from our houses. But I think it's offering a really good perspective because it's such a more it's more personal to me. I mean, I don't know if that feels like that to you guys, but even some of the conversations that I've had with friends of mine, with players, it's been a little bit more intimate. And it's like, in all honesty, it's a side of my friends on tour that I already knew, but I don't think the fans always kind of see it that way. So, with my new show with Tennis United with Vasek, the ATP, WTA came together, and I think we're the first. It's a first in sports where both the men's and the women's leagues are coming together, and I think now was the right time. I mean, obviously we have all our combined events that are amazing. We have our Grand Slams, our Indian Wells, Miami, everything like that. So we see the guys on the road a lot, but I think really coming together, especially in this moment, we're all spread out across the world. We're all in different time zones. We're sort of feeling all the effects of this quarantine, of this moment, in different ways. I mean, some of the players are in really big cities, so they're, stuck in apartments. Others are a little bit more out in the country, so there's a little bit more out there. And one of the questions that Vasek and I have really been talking about, and one of the topics that has come up, is how is everyone dealing with this? Like, are they staying in shape? Are they learning a new skill? And for me, that was a big part of it. And I'll give a little credit to sort of the journey I was on when I had my injuries and I had some downtime and my career came to a halt, before my first, for example, before my first knee surgery. And I really had to reevaluate like what my priorities were, what I was passionate about. I knew I wasn't retiring from tennis, which I think is kind of the thought of most of the players right now, is like, we're not done, but we're, what are we doing in the interim? And I think it's a great time for, personal reflection. And I think it's worth finding a balance between having fun and taking facts seriously, recognizing where you're at. And that's what Tennis United is doing. I mean, I'm talking to all these players, and again, I know almost all of them, and I'm really finding out new things about them, whether they're interested in cooking. And I really appreciate that a lot of them have been super honest too. If I've asked them, how are you staying positive? I've had a few players that have just said, I'm not, like, I'll be honest, I'm struggling with some motivation right now. And I think that keeps it really real. I mean, it's like you have some of these amazing athletes at the top of their sport, and in this moment, they're like everyone else. Like, what, I got to reevaluate my goals. Like, what am I training for? Like, how do I organize my schedule now that I'm home all the time? Do I even like the people I'm spending time with, like, in my house? Like, let's be real. There's a lot of questions that we're all kind of like, and a lot of emotions that we're all going through. And, you know, Tennis United was just this idea to bring the tennis community together. And, you know, we have so many outlying things, like there's different tournaments, different cities, different schedules, and it can feel a little bit like the tennis tours are scattered. And really, I want there to be this feeling of community, whether it's with the rec players, whether it's with professional players, whether it's with tournaments, whether it's with slams. Like, we're all in this together. And tennis is such a massive and global sport. It's a sport that you can play from when you're 4 years old till when you're 100. And it's just this lifestyle, this life sport. And I think this was, you know, kind of the idea was to bring everyone together and keep up with what the pros are doing, keep up with what fans are doing. How are we having fun on TikTok? How are we staying motivated? Which, by the way, I have not released a TikTok video yet. I'm kind of intimidated by the Vikas and Svitolinas of the world, but oh shit, Jamie's on.
Bringing tennis together.
Wait, speaking of motivation, I don't know if you guys have been following along with Jamie's Insta workouts, but if you ever wanted to know how to get some like ripped up glutes and quads, follow along with leg workouts. Partners don't let partners skip leg day.
Of course, yeah,
okay.
Of course.
I love this. So Beth didn't know that we were bringing Jamie in, and I just felt like it was the perfect moment. You're talking about bringing tennis together. Jamie Murray and Bethanie Mattek-Sands together again. Jamie, you're even dressed for a workout too.
I know.
I got my Man United soccer jersey on. Yeah, it's a bit cold in London now for a workout. But I did my stuff this morning. Prepared to get up early, get it done, maybe post it on Instagram. I felt like I was working hard enough, and then kind of mess around the rest of the day.
Jamie, I'm actually really proud of you on like your stepping up your like Insta influencer profile. Like, I'm like, this is impressive. I'm proud.
I've had a good teacher.
That was.
You mean
was
after all the videos that I made you do after all our matches and all those selfies finally sunk in?
The penny finally dropped. Yeah.
That was a question I actually had for you both. You've both done such a great job kind of in that department. And when you look at, for instance, Bob and Mike Bryan throughout their careers have done an amazing job of really marketing the game of doubles. A lot of people know that they're going to potentially see the best match of the day if they're going out to, you know, say court 17 at the US Open and watching a mixed doubles or a doubles match there. A lot of people don't know that. And you guys have done a really great job of kind of advertising that. Has that been a conscious thing, do you think? Knowing that, you know, doubles really does, some people need a little encouragement.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I'll jump in first, but Jamie and I have talked about this a lot. I mean, for me, doubles is a completely different game. One, it's what everyone in rec leagues, in the USTA leagues, it's what they usually play. So I think, you know, learning more about the strategy and the ins and outs and even seeing it live is really applicable for them. And I don't like to compare singles strategy to doubles strategy to mixed strategy, because I think they're all different. I think some players are amazing singles players, some players are amazing doubles players. There's a few players that are amazing mixed players. I think a big difference is that doubles, it comes down to a lot of chemistry. I mean, you're out there, you're making tennis a team sport. You're coming together, figuring out what your strengths are, how you're feeling that day, and playing against two other great people. And like, for example, in mixed doubles, it's got to be one of the only sports where there's no handicaps on guys or girls. Everyone's playing full on. I mean, I can't think of one match where a guy felt bad for me at net. Like, if I was the weaker link, like they were picking on me.
A match where you felt bad for the guy either.
But exactly. I'm like, look, hey, they're like, they got a racket in their hand. Like, they got to be used to this.
Yeah, it's game on. Yeah.
But that's why. So Jamie and I have both, pushed for that. Obviously, Jamie can speak a little bit on that. But I think it's, for us and for me, I've had some amazing doubles results over my career. And as much as I've liked singles, I love doubles. I think it's brought my personality out. I think I like having someone out there that I can talk to. And I mean, if you listened in on Jamie and I's conversation, or even with my women's doubles players with Kenan or with Lucy, we're talking a little bit of strategy and a lot of bullshit after that. And like, we're having fun, but we're both we're both competing and we're both we're out there to win. And I think it's, I think more people would love to watch it and to play it if they knew. So that's kind of the goal behind us being pretty outgoing on all our social media platforms.
I think that was like perfect answer. I think that there's not much more for me to add. I think that like what Beth said about the mixed in particular is obviously, it really is the only sport that I kind of can think of where men and women are there on the court competing equally. I think also is what you said, like it's the bedrock of amateur tennis is doubles, whether that's doubles or mixed doubles. That's what people play. They can relate to it, I think, better than, if they go onto Arthur Ashe Stadium and they're watching, Djokovic against Rafa. It's incredible tennis, but it's not real life really for the majority of people. And I think people enjoy it. I think certainly since the difference since I started playing on the tour in 2007 to where the doubles game is now, like it's changed so much. The profile of it's increased exponentially. I think especially in certain target markets around the world, it's so well supported, and it's on TV or streaming a lot more than it used to. And I think that's helped get the guys and girls' names out there, get doubles in people's heads a bit more. And when they go to the tournaments now, like the matches are all really well attended, very well supported, and people have a vested interest in the matches they're going to watch.
So Jamie, we were checking in a little bit with Beth before we brought you in. So we want to check in with you. We know that you've obviously been quite busy. I've done a few of your workouts. They're really damn hard. So thank you for that. What have you been up to, Jamie? And also just reading today about perhaps maybe it's in its early stages, some sort of domestic event in the UK. What do you know about that?
Yeah, so been trying to put together an event for a little while. It's obviously difficult just now with the restrictions in place in terms of like getting a fixed date, because in the future or the short-term future we don't really know quite what's going to happen. Ideally we'd like to do the event during the Wimbledon fortnight, especially so like the British fans kind of have tennis to watch, but obviously things are kind of changing all the time. We're in another 3-week lockdown now, and I mean also like the players, they'll need time to kind of train and get back out on court, because here like we can't do anything. I mean unless you have a tennis court in your house, you can't play tennis. So the guys obviously need a bit of time to kind of get ready, but there will be that period of time where the restrictions ease and then there's a return to professional tennis. It's not going to be like the next day. So everyone will want to train hard, everyone will want to compete if they can, and hopefully this event can kind of can cater for a few of our kind of elite players.
Jamie, thanks for that. Yeah, we were all, Nick sent me the tweet and we were all very curious about what that may or may not entail, but we want to have a little fun with you guys
Okay.
too. We have some questions that I've laid out, and I'm going to go from one to the other, and I need you guys to tell me who this most applies to. So we'll start off with Bethany. Who is more calm before a match?
Jamie.
Very chill. Jamie, do you agree?
Yeah, but I need her fire, that's for sure. So it's a good match. It's a good balance.
Nice.
This could be an easy one, but Jamie, who's the chattier player on court?
That's Beth. Yeah, I'm giving her that one.
I don't know. I bring out your chattiness though too.
That's
like
true,
I don't have a lot of monologues out there, so you're keeping up with me at least.
Especially when we win at US Open and I'm celebrating by myself and I'm having to explain to you that we've actually won the tournament.
I still watch replays of that, and I'm like,
I know, I saw it the other day.
I really did not know it was match point. And I'm like, I just remember looking up at you and saying like, damn, Jamie's really celebrating hard on that. I mean, I'm pumped we broke, but like, okay, like I didn't know. That's not like him.
I'll roll with this, yeah.
Amazing. Well, that was actually one of the questions. Okay, Beth, who celebrates harder after you know you've won? So you've done the press conferences, you've done everything you need to do on site. Who celebrates harder from there?
I'm gonna probably say me, because the last couple times, like, Jamie's had like one glass of champagne. He's like, I gotta fly, like I gotta leave, and I'm like, what? I don't know what he does. Like, maybe he like parties up on the plane. I never got any video of this, but I'm gonna give myself that title.
Yeah, I'm giving you that one. The last couple of times we won was a bit rubbish for me. I was flying home that same night, so I was celebrating on the plane, and last time they had the big shutdown, so I was lucky to get a flight back. So we had to fly through Ireland to get home. So there was a big strike, so there's no flights going back to UK. So we just took what we could get, and took all my bags to the courts. Took all my bags to the courts. Went on, played the match, and then went to the airport, and off we went.
Wow.
Damn.
That's not really how you should be doing it, though.
I did not get any sleep that night, so I'll just put that out there. So.
All right. Under the breath counts here. Mutterings count. Jamie, who curses more on court?
I don't know, really. I wouldn't say we're really dropping F-bombs and stuff.
I kind of do. I think Jamie's being nice right here, but I tend to drop. I'm the one who's dropping a few more F-bombs. Like when Jamie.
It's never got to the point where I've thought, yeah, can't.
I've never made it uncomfortable.
Turning blue.
Like, what's wrong with Bethany? But no, we normally are actually kind of making each other laugh out there. I would say, like, nobody's like, if we are kind of going that route, it's like in a funny way versus being like super pissed.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Who looks at their respective box more often? Beth, this is for you.
I honestly think Jamie does, because actually I don't look at my box a lot, but I don't know. I don't notice how much Jamie's looking up there either. I think we both don't. As far as most of the players I know, I think we're on the lower end of that. I don't think we look a lot. I don't know. Do you, Jamie? Maybe I'm just not really like super selfish and not noticing.
Yeah, I don't. Like, I definitely don't feel you looking up at the box for support or help or because you're worried or anything like that. I would say I tend to look more if like I start to get a bit stressed, like I don't know, with my serve or maybe my return I'm struggling with, whatever, and it's like, they can help me out, you know. Is
that maybe a little genetic, Jamie? Is that a little bit genetic?
Yeah. But that's it. I don't find when I'm playing matches too often I'm like really aware that I'm looking up to my box too much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys have been fantastic. Blair, should we close them out with our YourServe question for the week?
Ooh, yes, I would love that. So we ask a new question every week to fans, and we got some really cool responses to this one. We asked people what their tennis treasure was, or treasures. So it could be a trophy, a souvenir, a picture with their favorite player, whatever that may be. If you had something that were to come to your mind on this topic, what would you say your tennis treasure is?
I mean, I collect all my badges from the tournaments, which I have done for about 5 years. I just got into the habit, and now I keep doing it. And my wife Ali, she always wants me to keep them. But I wouldn't, like, you know, if the house got burned down, I wouldn't be disappointed that I lost them. But
you wouldn't run and save the badges?
Yeah.
Save the badges. That must be a huge collection.
Yeah, I mean, we're playing like, let's say 30 tournaments a year, so there's a ton of stuff in there. But all like the Grand Slam towels as well. I mean, I think all players keep them. That's pretty cool.
Did you see my last post where I was?
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah. Brilliant.
So in my reorganization of the house, like I'm going through all the slam towels and actually WTA towels that I've collected over the course of my career. So I've saved only a couple things from tournament to tournament, and actually one of them, badges are a big one for me. At some point, I kind of want to put a full-on collage, but I have badges from when I was playing in juniors, which I know was only like 6.5 years ago, but like I saved them all. And like the tournament towels, I swear, I almost didn't post that video because I'm like, shit, like the tournaments are going to be like, yeah, Bethany, don't let her take one more towel from us. Like, we saw that collection.
Wimbledon, that was like that at Wimbledon. Like the towels were so were so precious. Like, so if you got a rain delay, you would take the towel off with you, because then when you come back onto court, you'd get another towel.
Wait, don't give away the secret. They're gonna start like swiping our.
No, but then there was a time where the ball kids were telling you that you weren't supposed to do it. But I think they were just doing it so that they could keep the towels for themselves.
But yes, so I feel like those are two things that I've saved over the years, and I'm generally not a person that saves a lot of things, but badges and towels. And then obviously I have my trophies set out, but to me, I think it was, when I look at the trophies, it's more about the experiences that I had while winning them. And even, and Jamie can talk about this too, it's sometimes like that moment where you do hold the trophy, as special as it is, like even in New York, like I was sad the tournament was over. Like I had fun through the whole thing with my squad, with our practices. Each match had a different momentum to it. And so for me, as big of a deal as maybe the trophies are in my living room, to me, it's the memories attached to them. So I'll throw all those three in the mix to that question.
Awesome. Well, you guys, thank you so much. We took up too much of your time, but Bethanie, thanks for all the
time. We've got time, that's for sure.
I'm on another interview right now, so I gotta interview another player. So.
And Jamie,
this second workout of the day in.
Yeah. Exactly. Jamie, you gotta keep us up to date. You guys, thanks so much.
No,
bye, guys.
Thanks for having me on. Cheers, guys. See you later. Bye. Bye.
Okay, great to see two-time Grand Slam champs together, Bethanie Mattek-Sands and Jamie Murray. That was so fun, and a little delayed reaction from Bethanie in noticing that someone else had joined the conversation. We need to get a little beeper, Nick, for the parental controls.
I know. No, that was amazing. Beth didn't know we were having Jamie on the call, but she's got so much energy and spunk and passion. It's why she's doing Tennis United, and that ended up being great. And thanks to both Bethanie and to Jamie, and also to Justin Sands, who helped kind of put all that together.
Yes, thank you to those guys. That brings us to our next segment. It's time for Your Serve. This week, we asked a great question. Credit to Nick McCarvel. This was his idea. He wanted to know what your tennis treasures were/are. And I got to do a little show and tell as well. I had my wooden racket, my tennis ball can collection that you can see somewhere back there, and as well as my lone gold ball that I got from playing father-daughter tennis with my dad. I was certainly not getting that in any sort of singles competition, but that was fun. Nick, what are yours?
Well, I've gotten a lot of keepsakes, little things to bring home that are anecdotal now when I have conversations or that I keep in my apartment or what have you. But actually, my tennis treasure is this wall that is here in Montana in the back alley. This is, Blair, I'm not joking. This is where I played tennis or I learned to play tennis. I would watch matches this is like early mid 90s. I would watch matches on TV. And then I would go out and I'd play for hours on end. This is where I learned to play the sport. And honestly, it's you can see it. It's the perfect tennis wall for hitting against. And honestly, it's probably my most cherished of treasures.
Oh, I love that. I'm actually kind of jealous that you have one in close proximity. I could use that right about now.
I haven't ventured to go hit out there now. I am 34, and so I would feel a little silly just like, my neighbors being like, what are you doing? But anyway, we got great responses from you guys out there, a lot of people in tennis media, some former players. Let's start with a big fan of ours. We're a fan of hers too, Steph in the US. These are great. Some old tennis magazines. I love that. Some Davis Cup Spanish newspapers, and a ticket stash of tennis tickets she's had over the years, and also this old Fed Cup poster. Good. I think Steph has a lot of collector's items in her possession.
Yes, she does. That's why I had no shame in calling her out on Twitter. I was like, Steph, I know you have some stuff. Show us. I love this contribution from Tennis Channel host extraordinaire Brett Haber. So he has this picture. I'm just going to read the tweet. It's a ball Pete Sampras busted with his serve at the 96 US Open. Brett was waiting in the tunnel to interview him for ESPN after the match. He asked the chair umpire for the ball as a prop. so he could then ask Pete about it, and no one asked for it back. And why would you ever give that back? I love that he still has that.
That is an amazing prop. You and I have done plenty of post-match interviews and I haven't used a broken ball.
Now I'm going to be looking around for things that I should be using during matches.
Okay, we go from a broken tennis ball to a smash racket. We love this from @Joe_tennis. This is an Andy Murray smash racket from 2015 at the ATP Finals. And then Blair, the next year he got Andy to sign the racket. Joe, well done.
I love that. And then, of course, we have a video from our friend Chanda Rubin, former world number 6, current Tennis Channel analyst. You can catch her on Tennis Channel Live. But she gave us like this little tour on her dining room table, which I loved. And I'm not going to lie, I had to really hold myself back. I just wanted to ask her, do you serve salad to guests in this one big bowl that she has? Because it looks so perfect. And what a conversation piece.
Let's find out next week what she exactly uses that bowl for. We go from one tennis friend in Chanda Rubin to another dear friend. Pete Holterman works across tennis. He works for ESPN. He helps run media at Cincinnati, Houston, so many other events. He's been around the sport for a long time. And this collection shows, Blair, we saw and heard Jamie Murray talking about his own badges. Pete's got so many himself. And I think I'm allowed to share this, Blair. He told us that the initial photo that he took for his very first badge, he still uses it. He still uses that same photo.
It's a memento in itself, I guess, with every successive credential that he has. Love that, Pete. Pete's going to hate us, by the way, for making him sound old. Sorry, Pete.
Sorry, Pete.
Next up, we have this really cool NBC throwback, a little tennis pin from Patty Fallick. She's the head of USTA broadcast and a great supporter and encourager of ours, which we appreciate. Thanks for participating, Patty. Love it.
That was awesome from Patty. I love this from our friend Dave. He's another guy that's within the tennis media sphere. This is from the 1992 U.S. Davis Cup Dream Team. Dave said he was there in Minneapolis to watch the U.S. play Sweden, a team that included Stefan Edberg. And I just can never look at Andre Agassi hair the same after reading Open.
I love that, which is a perfect segue into the final one that we're going to talk about today, the final tennis treasure, courtesy of Josh Lozel. Thanks, Josh, for sending this in. It is a world tennis cover from 1981 featuring John McEnroe and Bjorn Borg. And I just thought that when I first saw this, my first thought was, can you imagine players agreeing to do a photo like that today? And I mean, my answer is definitely not, right? So I tweeted that out. I said, gosh, can you imagine? Like, never going to happen. Like in costume with the pistols. And that's a whole other story, obviously, today. But I then get a text from none other than Mary Carrillo, who happened to see that tweet and let me know that she was working at World Tennis at the time and said that that was one of the first times they had ever used Photoshop. That's actually a Photoshopped image, which, I mean, I'm kind of impressed. Like if it weren't, I mean, again, I am not the one to be talking about anything technological, but that looks pretty darn good because I looked at it because I thought to myself, is that really a pic? But it looks great. And then from there, Mary said, you should definitely email Steve Flink, a tennis writer, columnist, historian, Hall of Famer as of 2017. I got to know Steve when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. But I sent him an email. I was like on such a mission yesterday, Nick. And he wrote me back with, because this whole cover story was broken down in a letter from the editor, who at the time was Susan Adams. And by the way, I should note the article that went along with this was by Bud Collins, of course. Of course it would be, with an iconic photo like that. But she tells the backstory of the fact that they couldn't get these two people in the same place. And she was telling, he was describing, or the editor was describing, designer and photo stylist Janine Todd researched the costumes and rented the pistols to authenticate every last frill and hammer. They went rustic and Aaron Burr-like for McEnroe and more European elegance for Borg. I mean, I was dying when I read this. Then they went on the mission of trying to get these two guys together, and that is where they ended up having struggles. Just could not get them in the same place for an hour, and then kind of went with the technological solution there. But how cool! And also, though, I got to say, even if you had two players who would take this shot separately, are people going to dress up these days? Like, I'm just amazed that they even got them in the Seinfeld puffy shirt.
The thing that makes me think of is that like iconic photo with Celis and Capriati and Davenport, and they were all kind of dressed as like genies. What was that, like 2002, 03?
Yeah.
But that also, that's like such the pirate top from Seinfeld as well, the billowy shirt. Blair, come on, round of applause. I'm cueing my own sound effect. Well done, Mary Carrillo, Steve Flink, old-timey, the tennis cover. Good job.
Well, thank you to Mary for reaching out to me as I'm doing lunges, and I look down. It's a number that I actually didn't have in my phone. I've only ever communicated with Mary by email, and I'm thinking who is? And then it's signed MC, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, Mary Carrillo dropping truth nuggets during my workout. It was great, and then huge thanks to Steve for, as Steve does, giving us the most thorough background ever.
Well, you guys, those entries, what you sent us in, those were all treasures in and of themselves. We loved them so much. Thank you for sending them in. And for the YourServe segment next week, you're going to have to watch our social media channels. And don't forget, we're now on Instagram at It's Tennis Tuesday. Blair, we're now on the gram. I'm pretty excited about that.
And on the shameless path, please follow us.
Yeah, exactly. One person that we know is following us on Instagram. We've been following him from afar. He is our first guest on what we're calling Contributors Corner. There's the graphic. His name is Jason De La Pena. We've both worked with him at the WTA finals. Blair, he's based in Singapore. He does a lot of work for Fox Sports Asia. He's also been on Tennis Channel. But what we thought here is we wanted to check in with the tennis family from afar, and Jason gives some great insight as to how things are looking and feeling in Singapore and the Asian region.
I am making my Tennis Tuesday debut. This is so cool. Nick and Blair, thank you for the call. I am totally flattered. This is Jason De La Pena. I cover all the tennis for Fox Sports Asia. We're based out of Singapore, and we broadcast across around 25 territories, 25 countries in Asia. So we have a massive footprint. But Blair and Nick, I am missing you guys. Normally, we're in the thick of the clay court swing by now, and with kind of keeping one eye on the French capital that is Paris and Roland Garros. But that's a kind of funny story, isn't it? We don't know what's going to happen with the US Open at Flushing Meadows. So still huge question marks over the tennis season, and the Asian swing with the Masters 1000 in Shanghai, the events in Tokyo and Beijing and Zhuhai and Chengdu, and the WTA finals, of course, Blair, in Shenzhen later in the year. So big question marks over the season. One note of positivity for you, my Tennis Tuesday fans and friends. Tsai Ing-wen, now she is the Chinese Taipei president. She's the president of Taiwan. And on Twitter the other day, she called out the respected anchor from ESPN, that is Keith Olbermann, saying, "Hey Keith, are you watching our pro baseball and pro basketball leagues that have restarted?" Yeah, we've got some professional sport from this side of the world in Southeast Asia. The pro baseball and pro basketball leagues have started in Taiwan. You heard it right. And a really cool thing about it is that in the crowd, in the baseball stadiums, apparently they've put cardboard cutouts of members of the public, of fans of baseball, I guess. But those cardboard cutouts and those mannequins sitting in the stands are wearing face masks. So Taiwan has been an incredible example regarding how to deal with this coronavirus. Just one word, Blair, regarding your show and tell. This is me completely abusing my broadcaster's position. Lu Yang-shun, Rendy from Chinese Taipei, from Taiwan. He spends, unfortunately for him, hours locked in a studio with me when we cover the Grand Slams and the other tennis tournaments as well. And I said, Rendy, hey, come on, buddy. give me one of your tennis rackets. So this is the former world number 33s. I remember Rendy got to the quarterfinals of Wimbledon back in 2010 as well. Rendy, give me one of his rackets. A little bit heavy actually, but who cares, because it's Rendy's and it's kind of cool. And it works really, really nicely. So this is my show and tell. I'm going to leave it there. Nick messaged me the other day and said, hey Jason, give us a couple of minutes. I've gone on too long. It's nearly 3 minutes. I'm going to leave it there, guys.
I love at the end that he also gives his own tennis treasure, Rendy Lou's racket. That is pretty cool. And that one wasn't smashed. It was intact.
Love it. Rendy Lou. That is a name that I wish I would hear more of. Rendy is the best. Super nice guy. Love that.
And
thanks, Jason.
You should be watching more Fox Sports Asia, because that's where he appears with Jason. And Blair, I should say we should follow it up really quickly. He's bringing up that Chinese Taipei, is doing a lot of work on no-fan basketball and no-fan baseball, and that they're pushing that to the rest of the world to say, this is how we can do it. You should try to follow our lead.
I am all for other people giving us examples to follow, because as of right now, way too many options out there. So love that. And thanks to Jason. And we hope that Contributors Corner is going to be a regular segment to kind of check in with people who work in the tennis world around the globe.
Yeah, thanks so much to Jason. And you guys, thanks for joining us. This was episode 10. I still can't believe we've made it to double digits of Tennis Tuesday. You can follow us, of course, on Instagram. It's Tennis Tuesday. Also on Facebook and YouTube. And our YourServe question, we're brainstorming. That's going to be out on Thursday or Friday. But for now, for Blair Henley, I'm Nick McCarvel. Thanks, guys.